Hello and welcome. My name is Ryan O'Connell and I'll be your instructor during this training session. In this training session on Azure Basics, we're going to learn how to create an Azure virtual machine in the portal. We're going to create a virtual machine. We're going to understand what is a virtual machine, and we're going to access this virtual machine via remote desktop. So what is a virtual machine? It's a computer file that is typically called an image, which behaves like an actual computer. It's one of the files which contains everything. It runs Windows and Linux and etc. This gives you the flexibility that you can run multiple machines in a physical computer. Each of these systems can have different operating systems, such as Windows 10, Windows 2012, Windows 2019 Server, Ubuntu Server, Red Hat, and so on. Each of these virtual machines provides its own virtual hardware. And that includes hard drives, CPU, network adapters, and other such devices that we may need. Some cost-saving tips. Just remember that when we are creating a virtual machine, you pay for the compute time you use on a per minute basis. Pricing is based on the size of the operating system and any licensed software that's installed on it. To avoid corresponding charges when you are not using your VM, make sure that you change its state to stopped or /deallocate that virtual machine. Even better, if you're not using that virtual machine at all and it's got no purpose, just remove that resource completely. Also, another important key factor to note is not all Azure regions have the same pricing for the same resources, and this includes virtual machines. So again, also you want to correctly size your virtual machine, because if you have the incorrect size, if it's too big, you're paying for too many resources that you don't need. Again, the price for an Azure machine in the USA will be different to a price for an Azure machine in South Africa, or an Azure machine in New Zealand, or an Azure machine in the United Kingdom. So have a look at your Azure regions and compare the pricing. Sometimes it may make sense to host your Azure machine in the USA, for example, and you're based in New Zealand. Again, that all depends on your IT infrastructure, and that depends on your organization. There are three methods to create a virtual machine. These three methods are: you can use the portal, you can use PowerShell, and you can use the CLI. In our training video, we're just going to go through the portal. We will cover the PowerShell method and the Azure CLI method in later videos, but it's outside the scope of this video. This video is just to get you up and running with creating a virtual machine. Again, we're going to use the portal to create our virtual machine, and we're going to do this live. So I'm going to switch over live now into my Azure infrastructure, and let's do this. As you can see, I've gone ahead and logged back into my portal. And you can see we can create virtual machines by either clicking virtual machines here in the Azure services, or we could select virtual machines from the drop down menu here. I'm going to go ahead quickly and create a resource group. I'm going to click the create button and type in a resource group that I'm going to call test VMs, and review and create, and click create, and this is going to create our test VM resource group, and we're going to go ahead and put all of our VMs in here. So I'm going to navigate over and select virtual machine. I'm going to click add. I'm going to select virtual machine, and I'm going to go ahead and start setting up my virtual machine. I'm going to click the resource group, select our test VMs from our resource group that we have just created. Again, I'm going to select a Windows 10 image. If I click in this box, this will bring up all the images, so we're going to stick with that. If I want to know where I got this from, just click see all sizes, and this is pretty cool with Microsoft because it gives us sizes and specs and costs on a virtual machine that we may want to create or use. And as you can see, there's quite a big price difference in different machines. We also have these other ones here that are not opened up, and they are high-end and high-performance VMs. We're not going to be using that. I'm going to select the B2S for now. I'm going to type in my username as AZ admin. for my user, I'm going to paste in my password because it's quite a long password. And I'm going to scroll down and confirm I have licensing rights. And by default, RDP port is going to be open. I could click review and create, and this would go ahead and create that virtual machine. But let's walk through the process so you can see everything behind the scenes. I'm going to click next. Again, I can select the type of disk I want by clicking in the OS type, and we can either have HDD or standard SSD or premium. I'm going to stay with premium for now. I'm going to click next, and this is going to create our VNet, our subnet, our public IP. So I'm going to click next and work our way through. On the monitoring for boot diagnostics, I'm going to disable that because we don't need that, because we just are creating a demo VM. I'm going to click next, and we're not going to tag this virtual machine, so I'm going to click next, and this is going to go ahead and create our virtual machine. And if you notice here, we get a validation error, and if we click on that, that is because we needed to give our VM a name. So I'm going to give this VM1, and I did this on purpose just to show you that if you do skip a step, it won't allow you to create that virtual machine. You actually have to go back and fix it. So again, if I went through the steps again, you could see it kept all of my settings. So I could have just clicked review and create. So I'm going to go ahead now, and this is going to create our virtual machine. It's going to give us everything that we spoke about, or everything that we chose during our selection. I'm going to click the create button, and this is going to go ahead and create our virtual machine for us. Now this can take anywhere from a couple of minutes to half an hour. It all depends on the type of VM you have selected, and as your VM is being deployed, it will get resources will get populated in this list. So we'll just give it a few minutes while it deploys, and through the magic of video, I'm going to speed this up. And as you can see, just a quick note, it's deploying our IP address, our network security group, our test VNet, our network interface, and of course our VM. And it will tell us as the deployment progress goes through on how long it takes. And as you can see, our deployment has completed successfully. We can go to the resource by clicking resource here. I'm just going to close this down and go to the resource so you can see. And this is my virtual machine. This is where we start our virtual machine, and this is where we can stop our virtual machine. I'm just going to head over quickly to our resource group and show you something. It's created this resource group, Network Watcher NG, and you're probably saying to yourself, but I didn't create that group. Where did that group come from? By default, the Network Watcher resources are located in a hidden Network Watcher RG resource group. This is created automatically. For example, Network Security Group flow log resources and child resources of the Network Watcher are enabled. You don't have to do anything. Microsoft will manage this. The Network Watcher resource group again represents the back-end service for the Network Watcher, and it's fully managed by Azure. Customers do not need to manage it. Operations like move are not supported. However, this resource can be deleted. So I just wanted to show you that, so when you see that there, you don't need to get alarmed. If I click in the test VMs, you will notice it's created my VNet, my test VM, my public IP address, a network security group, a network interface, and of course my disks. So I'm going to move over back to our virtual machines, and we're going to click on that virtual machine, and I'm going to click connect. I'm going to select RDP, and this is going to allow me to download an RDP file, which I'm going to download to my desk now. I'm going to select that RDP file and click connect, and this is going to allow me to connect automatically to my virtual machine. So I'm going to go ahead and type in my username, which was AZ admin, and I'm going to type in or paste in, should I say, sorry, my very long password. So I'm going to paste that in and click OK. And this is going to establish a connection. And as you can see, we get a certificate warning. It's telling us that it's going to connect to VM1. I'm going to click yes. And this is going to allow me to open up an RDP session to that virtual machine. Sorry, it's just opened up on my second screen, so I'm dragging stuff over so that you can see what's going on. And as you can see, my virtual machine is in the process of starting up, and it's allowing me to log in. So we need to give this a minute or two, and then it will open up and we can finish the configuration and actually log in to our Windows 10 VM. And as you can see, it didn't take too long, so I'm going to just turn all this off because we don't need it on, because this is just a lab machine. And I'm going to click accept, and this is going to fire up my Windows 10 desktop, and we could go ahead and start using this. I'm going to turn this off because I don't want to allow it to be discovered on the network for now. It's just a test VM. So I'm going to scroll down and just move over and click the start button. And as you can see, this is my Windows 10 machine. This behaves exactly the same way as if I was sitting at a physical machine at my desk in my office. If I click on the virtual machine to open up files using File Explorer, it behaves just like the real deal. I can go ahead and work on it. I've got all my Windows files here. I can start working with my virtual machine. The thing that you will notice, you'll see it says Windows Azure, and this has got some Azure information on here for me. So that's how you create a basic Windows 10 virtual machine and how you connect to it using RDP. So I'm going to go ahead and close this window down and click OK. Another thing that I want you to be aware of is when you go to your virtual machines and we click on that virtual machine, if you notice it's in a running state. While it's running, we're paying for it. So I'm going to go ahead and stop this virtual machine and confirm I do want to stop it. And this is going to go ahead and stop the virtual machine. The reason you would want to stop a virtual machine is you might want to do maintenance on it. You might want to delete it. In our case, we're not using it, so we're going to stop it. And any machine that is stopped is deallocated. And that means we won't pay for that resource because we're not using it. If I click on this little notification or bell icon, this will tell me information on what we've done, like the resource group we created, our virtual machine was deployed. We can close this down, and this will execute that command and stop that VM, and it'll take a few seconds for that virtual machine to stop. I'll just close this down, and we'll just wait a short while this VM stops. And as you can see, our virtual machine has stopped. So we can close this down, but you may say, hey Ryan, but it's still running. That's okay. All you have to do in order to see if it has stopped, just click the refresh button, and this will tell you that our virtual machine is now stopped and it's in a deallocated state, as you can see over here, which means we're not going to be charged for our virtual machine. So this is how you create a virtual machine. I would like to thank you for viewing. Again, a lot of you may know how to do this, a lot of you may not. So I hope you had fun and learned something in this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next videos.